My name is Nicole Cruz, and fostering alignment at the Center for Creative Leadership is my strategic leadership challenge. My approach and plan of action begins with addressing a key area of challenge on my personal leadership journey, that of influence. While I feel confident in the arenas of strategic thinking and acting, activating a sphere of influence is where I find weakness. In order to improve my influence factor, I intend to focus on harnessing influence to create alignment. Part of that will include understanding what a leadership institution is. They are diversified organizations that have faculty who conduct research, write, and develop content, including programs. Much of this work is monetized via custom programming, coaching, publishing, and symposiums. Faculty is supported by teams and managers and operational support staff on brick-and-mortar campuses. As an event producer, I help manifest these programs and am privy to the obstacles that get in the organization's path to alignment. The Center for Creative Leadership continues to improve inter- and intra-departmental communication, create streamlined systems, and use standard operational procedures to improve alignment. But there's still work to be done. I intend to use influence to create change because it is a challenge to my leadership skills, and executive management does not always witness this ongoing misalignment of departments, and having that influence will create a communication bridge to upper management as well as employees to make these tasks actionable. What does success look like? Success in this endeavor of alignment will result in manageable workloads for employees, less clarification emails, and meetings due to standard operational procedure and better communication. And the final result will be more programming being booked, more research being booked, and a more efficient workplace. The measurement of monetization by upper management, middle management, employees, and an ability to increase monetization of programs, research, and societal advancement are also crucial. Success will be measured by the amount of time spent on each project by each employee, as well as the amount of communication needed to complete projects. The outcome will be streamlined services with continuity throughout CCL's global research and their reach, and increased sales due to increased productivity and quicker turnaround of programs and research initiatives. Other measurements will be relationship driven and related to by the sphere of influence that we talked about earlier. The amount of awareness created by newly formed alliances can be meted by actionable measures on the part of upper management. Short-term measurements will be meted by the aforementioned newly formed alliances. Long-term measurements will be measured by policies that are implemented, and after about 6 months, how these policies are measured in program performance via time spent on said programs by employees, and how the sales of programs and research are tabulated. What is DAC? DAC is direction, alignment, and commitment in the tripod of leadership. The Center for Creative Leadership has high commitment scores. We have relatively high direction scores, but alignment comes in last with a score of 15 out of 25 on a DAC assessment. Focusing on alignment, the lowest score in the DAC assessment brings me to utilization of my personal weakest link in strategic leadership, that of influence. Strategizing influence with upper management and other departments, as well as my colleagues, will create awareness, change policy, and ultimately increase client experience and financial gain for CCL. Assessing the internal environment includes several strengths and weaknesses that have to be looked at. Some of the strengths include financials being on the ups despite wariness of a potential recession. They also include programs remaining close to capacity, a strong value set associated with doing greater good for humanity, and our current leadership is diversified with both behavioral scientists and leaders in business. So those two factors will come into play a little bit later on. The Center for Creative Leadership is also highly regarded in the marketplace as an innovative organization, and a global presence is well known. Some of the weaknesses that we need to take a look at, that there's a heavy concentration on custom programs and research, and this dilutes profit. Competition from prestige Ivy League universities for leadership programs is definitely on the horizon, as well as in our current reality. Organizational culture is reliant upon internally devised procedures and systems, and sometimes this slows down efficiency because we have really talented IT people that put these programs together. Is great in these systems, but they're not always abreast with global systems. Marketing and branding tends to lead toward extreme conservatism, making it less competitive with tech industry and progressive organizations. As a former startup employee and founder, I find this to be very frustrating, and it's something that CCL may not change, but it's certainly something that we can take a look at. Post-pandemic online learning trends impact cost, meaning that there are more online programs than there are in person. That is changing, but that is a weakness because it is a financial liability. Upper management and departments are siloed, and that's why we're talking about alignment today. And communication is multi-channel via email, Microsoft Teams, ClickUp, and various online repositories for data, making it very confusing to do very simple things. And all of these strengths and weaknesses are going to be balanced here in a moment. But before we get to that, let's talk about CCL's mission, vision, and values. The mission is to advance the understanding, practice, and development of leadership for a benefit of society worldwide. The vision: we strive to make the world a better place through more effective leadership. The values: our human-centered experiences ignite transformational and sustainable changes for individuals, organizations, and the communities they serve. CCL's mission, vision, and values appeal to businesses and organizations looking to improve the quality of their company's leadership and communication. We do have a concentration on equity, diversity, and equality, and societal advancement is a big part of what we do. These are pillars at CCL. And these pillars are evident in the common direction that we have. What are some of the key drivers to create this alignment that we're talking about? One, we need to create cross-boundary teams to address the lack of alignment between departments. We need to provide overviews from each of these cross-boundary teams that addresses lack of organization of data and processes. And we also need to create standard operational procedural channels for better communication between upper management and middle management employees, and monitor the progress of those channels. A deeper dive into the key drivers reveals that these cross-boundary teams need to tackle and report on alignment. The strategy for that is to influence executive leadership and department heads to collaborate on communication and change initiatives, inter and intra-departmentally. The measurement of success for these key drivers is to monitor and measure our alliances, compare streamlined communications quarterly to increase performance, and inter and intra-departmental, and measure the cost and differentials, as well as increase in program bookings and demand for research. The tactics are to continuously monitor communications and time spent on projects. Schedule and accountability: we will have quarterly IT support system documents for tracking time spent on projects. And performance measures: we need to take a look at the percentage of programs and research completed each quarter. Chapter 2. We're going to develop strategic leadership and create alignment through polarity thinking. This is an interesting concept that is illustrated by the yin and the yang that you see in this figure 8 symbol. What is polarity thinking? Developing strategic leadership through polarity thinking by leveraging seemingly opposing ideas. Utilizing the yin and yang to create balance between two disparate concepts, and understanding the and both of polarities and mapping their pros and cons. What are some of the polarities at the Center for Creative Leadership? Centralization versus decentralization. Balancing the need for centralized control and decision-making with autonomy. Short-term versus long-term focus. Striking a balance between short-term objectives and long-term strategic goals is essential for organizational alignment. Innovation versus stability, or I should say innovation and stability. Encouraging innovation and adaptation while maintaining stability and consistency is a delicate balance. Employee autonomy and accountability. Empowering employees with autonomy and trust while holding them accountable for their performance. Global and local. For multinational organizations like the Center for Creative Leadership, balancing global standardization with local customization is essential. And change and stability, managing change and stabilizing ongoing challenges. It's a very, very delicate teeter-totter, and it's something that we are facing every day. If you take a look at the polarity map that I've designed here between departments, this is standardization and customization, which is, I think, at the heart of alignment because there's so many details associated with customization, and that's where the balance gets out of kink. One of the quadrants here gives us in the upper left standardization benefits, and in the lower left it gives us the drawbacks, and in the upper right it gives us the benefits of customization and then the drawbacks of customization. And as you can see, we have an off-kilter figure 8. The balance should be somewhere in the middle. The lines that have been drawn in both black and yellow highlighter should be sort of more centered to create that alignment and in these polarities. And that's something we can work on. What makes it possible to manage these? How are we going to work on this? We need to establish clear decision-making frameworks based on factors like strategic importance, risk, and expertise. We need to provide autonomy and authority to local teams when it comes to day-to-day operational insights. We need to regularly communicate and share information between departments to ensure alignment and exchange of best practices. We need to create strategy that includes both short-term and long-term goals with a clear alignment between the two. We need to regularly assess and measure progress toward both short-term and long-term objectives, adjusting strategies as needed. And we need to implement key performance indicators that reflect both short-term and long-term outcomes to incentivize alignment. We also need to encourage creativity and idea generation. We need to implement processes for risk assessment and management. We need to test innovative ideas on a smaller scale before full-scale implementation. And we need to establish transparent performance expectations and trust employees to make decisions within their areas of autonomy. We also need to provide regular feedback to them and develop global standards and guidelines, encourage teams to provide input and feedback on global strategies, and form global cross-functional teams to enhance collaboration and problem solving. Finally, we need to develop and implement structured change management approaches and keep employees informed about the reasons for those changes, and foster a culture of continuous improvement where change is an ongoing process rather than a disruptive event. What makes it impossible? Resistance to change. Even with a well-defined change management strategy, employees will resist change. Implementing some of these strategies may require significant resources, both in terms of financial investments and personnel. Organizations also have multiple priorities and will be competing with other departments for those resources. Ensuring that all the leaders at different levels are in sync with what we're trying to do is key. The business environment is also dynamic, and external factors such as changes in tech, regulations, or market conditions can disrupt the best laid plans. Cultural differences. In a global organization, this is bound to rear its head. And what we have to do there is manage these differences with cultural sensitivity. We also have to effectively measure and evaluate process in managing these polarities, and identifying the right KPIs and metrics can be elusive, but we've got to narrow that down. Different stakeholders within and outside the organization may also have conflicting interests, and it's very important to have those influencing skills to be able to get on the balcony and see where these differing opinions are coming from, so that you can manage them and work with them, and also perhaps change your tack. And then, of course, there's human nature and bias. People tend to have a natural bias towards one side of a polarity. And we need to be wary of groupthink and pushing people into thinking a certain way. We need to be cognizant of people within the organization who may hold more sway, the influencers, those with an exuberant personality who may be the Regina George of that cafeteria table in high school, and people will follow them. So all of this needs to be taken into account with polarities. The stakeholders who approach to address these polarities come from across the board. They are not just executive leaders or board members. These are people who are in the trenches as well. And we need to find out how they're feeling, their personal take on these polarities, and sort of compile them and, again, reassess with that polarity map. We have to organize facilitated discussions and workshops, and create a safe space for dialogue. We have to use those polarity maps and illustrate the interplay between the different elements so people can see the big picture. And we need to share real-life examples of how to manage polarities. And then collaborative decision-making is where we wind up. And we encourage these stakeholders to participate. Diverse groups of individuals who can represent different perspectives really contribute to finding balanced solutions. The benefits of these polarities and understanding them is within an organization, you can have improved decision-making, enhanced innovation, and better conflict resolution when there is an open dialogue. Identifying them recognizes opposing but interdependent forces and values such as stability and change, individualism and collectivism, and short-term and long-term goals. To effectively use polarities, organizations should establish open channels of communication, create a culture that encourages respectful dialogue around opposing viewpoints, and develop strategies to balance and harness these polarities rather than viewing them as problems to be solved. Mapping and addressing polarities allows organizations to leverage the strengths. And the drivers that I will use to balance these polarities include creating cross-departmental teams, monitoring communications, and creating solutions for better alignment, creating a timeline, and looking at the KPIs regarding program bookings and research demand. Peter Drucker is famous for saying, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And what that really means is that you can come up with a plan, and it's a brilliant plan, and it's all laid out. But if you don't have the people on board and the people who are involved in that plan willing to commit to it, that plan will be devoured. And so that's why we really need to look at culture. It is the key to change. It's the key to keeping leadership on board. And here are some adjectives that you can take a look at that are going to give you an idea of what culture really means. Is it a collaborative culture? Is it a positive culture? Is it respectful? Is it flexible? Is it understanding? Is it empathetic? Is it welcoming? Is it cooperative? Is it patient? I purposefully use very positive adjectives because I think that is where the Center for Creative Leadership is coming from. Due to the direction and commitment of people within the organization, there is definitely a cheerleader mentality where we're all pushing each other on and trying to get to the common goal. The problem is that there are hurdles between all of these people. And so that's where we are. So let's take a look at culture. What kind of culture is required at the Center for Creative Leadership? Is it dependent, independent, or interdependent? Culture is an operating system, and CCL is a vast global think tank, and in my opinion, it requires an interdependent culture where collective activities need inquiry, learning, and capacity to handle complex challenges. Some of these attributes of this culture include an open and inclusive environment, having a clear mission and values, collaboration and teamwork, continuous learning and development, empowerment and autonomy, transparency and accountability, innovation and creativity, communication and feedback, recognition and rewards, flexibility and adaptability, and ethical and social responsibility. And I've elaborated a little bit on these in this slide if you want to take a moment to read through these. I've done a slightly more elaborate look into the required culture, and so I've divided it into 3 categories. The required culture number 1 is lead by example, be communicative, create empowerment, give feedback and recognition, learning and development, collaboration, and adaptability. And again, I've elaborated a little bit more on these in the slide. Number 2, these are leadership practices that you need to stop. And we haven't talked about those so much, but so I'll be a little bit more detail-oriented. Micromanagement. Trust your team, trust their abilities, and allow them to take ownership. Command and control. Move away from this style of leadership. Instead, involve your team in decision-making and problem-solving. Blame culture. Eliminate this as much as possible. Encourage a culture of learning from failures and taking responsibility. It's something that's been very difficult for me to do because I'm a perfectionist, which is not the greatest thing to be. And as a former journalist, I'm the kind of person who can't get to the next paragraph until the first paragraph is perfect. And I've let that go. As you can tell from my oration style, I've gotten a lot more loose, and I think it's really important to be able to relate to people in that way. And I also think that learning from failures and showing your mistakes, showing your flaws, is key to being human, and it's a great leadership skill. Lack of transparency. Don't withhold or keep secrets. Be as transparent about the organization's goals and challenges and decision making as you can. And do not ignore employee well-being. I come from a culture of suck it up. Had a great grandmother who walked down a mountain with a compound fracture and didn't complain once. And I don't think that that's the right way to be in this world. I think that offering support, promoting work-life balance, really creates a long-term marathon rather than a scramble down a mountain. And that's what we want. We want a team that is in it for the long haul and is committed and healthy and is strong enough to lift other people up when they need it. So I'm learning a great deal. More leadership practices that we need to continue is strategic planning. We don't want to discount strategic planning. Alignment and goal setting, very, very crucial to keeping on track. Coaching and mentoring, it's part of that training that keeps people going, keeps people's minds active, and keeps them engaged. And accountability, consistently tracking performance and address issues when they arrive, and also reward those performance. Innovation, encourage a culture of innovation, support experimentation and creativity to find new solutional challenges. And then, of course, diversity and inclusion. Continue to promote diversity and look at these emerging perspectives and foster an inclusive environment. It's going to create a much more interesting global team. Shaping culture. Thinking and taking action is yet another element of strategic leadership that I think that I'm pretty good at. And as an event producer, a member of the project management office, my key leadership practices to create alignment are strategic planning, which is an action-taking element. Communication, fostering open, honest, and transparent communication with upper management, middle management, and teams on the ground floor. And then collaboration, breaking down those silos and fostering a culture of cooperation. Shaping a culture via influence engagement. Again, this is a team of people that we need to talk to get the alignment bridge built. And those architects and engineers and workers, as I just described, come from every aspect of building that bridge. And here's a list of some of those titles as well as their actual names in the current positions now in third quarter 2023. Engaging others involves beginning from the ground up and cross-departmentally, as well as using influence to gain endorsements from the top down to legitimize strategic leadership goals of alignment. And that's what we have here. Our next chapter, leading strategically in complexity and uncertainty. Here's where we're going to put it all together. It's time to delve into leadership networks and how they inform, enhance, and push forward initiatives. And this, to me, is one of the most exciting elements of this class, because it is my biggest weakness, is putting together those networks. With a long history of DIY, self-employment, contract work, working for lots of different companies, I, of course, have a vast and varied network. I might be what we would be considered an outlier because of that vast and varied network, but I've never had to put together all those elements to create change because they weren't centralized within one organization or one cause or one goal. So now that I am with the Center for Creative Leadership and I have that potential to create change, I am learning how to utilize influence, and it's very exciting. The strategic leadership network that I put together includes central connectors, including my direct report, which is Hernan Torres, and Allison Smith, and they're both managers and members of the Project Management Office executive team, and Shala Akbari, who heads the PMO and reports to the C-suite. So there's mid-level and upper level. And missing from my network are middle and upper management from different divisions, including research, EDI, marketing, faculty, and global operations. My areas of improvement here include expanding the network in those missing departments and increasing communications regarding interdepartmental alignment on a formal and informal basis. I've highlighted those central connectors in the center of my list of network folks in red so you can see sort of where they lie. I've also included a diverse array of people that I have peripheral, informal contact with, but I'm planning on increasing my communications with going forward. The peripheral players at CCL are high performers who work on the fringe of the organization, but whom are well connected both within certain margins of the organization and plentifully outside of CCL. That's kind of what I was referring to earlier when I was talking about my previous existence as a freelance and contract worker and being a peripheral player. They include adjunct faculty and ops employees, as well as trustees and board members and clients with former board experience. Missing from my list are faculty emeritus and consultants. I need to connect with these peripheral influencers to make the informal alliances that might move the needle forward in terms of action towards alignment. I've highlighted in red the peripheral nature of these jobs. Emeritus, meaning professors that are retired but still hold sway with current board members, upper management, and faculty, and visit regularly, have input on simulations, and they're still involved in design. And I mean, these are the folks that, you know, these are the elders that we talk to who really do hold a great deal of influence. Also, those who are involved in current change initiatives I've highlighted, and I've also highlighted newcomer, because I feel like sometimes when we have an ambitious newcomer to an organization, they are key to make their mark, and it's a great time to pounce and make a connection with them. They don't know as many people in the organization. They're open to conversations because they're not as mired in the muck as people who've been here for a very long time. And they also are bringing in outside ideas. And so they're more open to change because they're also bringing change. So that's why I put these along with our peripheral players. Brokers are the connectors at CCL. They control information flow. Their strengths are that they're key to success or failure of strategic initiatives. I need to get into the central flow of this information channel. I need to identify more brokers from diverse departments, and missing from my network are some of these departments. And I need to establish some connections with them. I've broken down some of those departments from sales to HR to middle management to EDI to facilities and finances. I really need to look at the global perspective here and spend more time talking to people from other countries and other campuses and getting their perspective as well. Lastly, we're looking at boundary spanners and energizers. I think these are a really interesting group. They gather and transfer information from across all parts of the organization and are important for implementing organizational change. People in these roles, despite not having a fancy title, hold a great deal of power. Energizers are people who create energy and excitement in their interpersonal interactions. They instill enthusiasm and creativity and make people love their jobs. I like to think that I'm in that category, although I might be kind of on the lower end of that stratum because I'm a hybrid employee. But when I'm in office, I think I tend to kind of get people on board with ideas, and I think people look to me and ask me questions, even though I'm fairly new on board. And someone else I would put in that category who is a colleague of mine is Ariana De Leon. She's a PhD candidate, and her exuberance and professionalism really shine through. And she's making connections across the board. So I really am glad to have her in my corner. I've also listed advocates and newcomers again, and people who have their finger on the pulse of information. Those people are the first to tell you what's going on. Those are the people who are talking to a lot of people. And it's crucial to have these people convey that message because, you know, they're passing that info down in the game of telephone, in a very positive game of telephone, I might add. So now it's time to wrap things up and look at the 4 C's, and these are my 4 C's. These are not in the text, of inspirational change. I believe that fostering alignment at the Center for Creative Leadership requires community, communication, creativity, and commitment. And when we all come together and talk freely about our work and develop innovative best practices and invest in ourselves, our relationship, and our organization, and our bond, we can do anything. So I'm very excited to take this alignment initiative to the next level. And how I propose to do that is by bringing it home, and this is my personal call to action and accountability. The identification and development of cultural change agents, boundary spanners, energizers, and innovation networks is a crucial aspect of strategic leadership, and the one where I need to work on my skills the most. Under the banner of influence, I tend to focus on my immediate environment, and this course has helped me sort of expand that network and see the larger picture. I plan to reach out every week to a different member of the organization to establish a new informal channel in my network and create a network map that is updated monthly. Quarterly, I will work on specific change initiatives focused on alignment and create a progress report based on organizational feedback at the end of the year. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much.